will be recorded. We do ask for all of our friends, supporters, and parents to please turn off their cameras as we will be recording this session and then later uploading this to our social platforms and also to our platforms that we have that connect with families. Some of our etiquettes that we have for this session is we'll have the chat box feature available for any questions, concerns, or comments that you would like to share with us. Towards the end, we'll be having a session for questions and answers. I know that many of you probably have some questions that you would like to ask, but we do ask to refrain and have those towards the end of our session, as soon as we have the time, for our presenters to go through their information, and then perhaps our questions can be answered then. Towards that, we also have different features. You can raise your hand, there's reactions. We ask for you to use those towards the end of our presentation today. For your audio, let's just be mindful of our space and surroundings. So we want to make sure that we're able to go through our session and listen to the information. So we ask to have your audio turned off. And again, our Q&A session will be towards the end. Without further ado, today's presentation will be on university housing and residential life. We have a wonderful group of individuals that will be presenting on the services that your students can participate in. We have with us today Fatu, Sarah, Roshan, Lauren, and Diana, who will be presenting just wonderful information for you to learn. I do ask if you have a pen and paper, perhaps having that, or your phone if you would like to take notes or take pictures, that's allowed. So we're going to go ahead and get started with that presentation for today. So thank you, University Housing and Residential Life, for being here today and just providing this presentation. In a couple of minutes, I'll stop sharing my screen so your team member can go ahead and present.
All right. Well, thank you again to echo Amy. We're going to jump right in and tell you just a little bit about our staffing. So we have an executive director who oversees all of housing and residential life. So that includes facilities and finance and all the things that actually keep us going day to day, our facilities and so forth. But then within residential life, we have the staff that work most directly with your team once they get here. Our front office, our assignments team, our student assistants, they answer the phones during the summer. If you all have questions about where am I on the wait list, or I want to do a room change before your student moves in, you did something wrong on the application, or just have general questions, they're the support team that will help you. But then the Res Life team actually lives in the building for the most part, and they put on programs and events and other things, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But there are some employment opportunities and some leadership opportunities there. So those are all our team members listed. And then we're going to talk a little bit about our different villages. So Sarah's going to go through some slides here shortly that talks a little bit about the uniqueness of each of the villages. I do want to share, though, we often get the question of which village is the best village, or where do the first year students live, or where do what's the best? And every year our students change, and so our communities change and they're dynamic, and so really it never is the same, but every community is the best because it has something that's different and unique. So I'm going to turn it over to Sarah to talk a little bit about the unique attributes of each of these different villages.
All right, well, starting with Parkside Village, this is comprised of Parkside North, Parkside Central, and Parkside South. There is a common area building and service center where students can get their mail, where they go if they're locked out, where they can check out games or just study and hang out. And then Parkside South and Parkside Central are comprised of individual buildings of around 100 students, and they are lettered G through Q. We updated common room furniture, and those spaces are pretty, they're suite style and recently updated. The two thematic communities that we have within Parkside Central and Parkside South are in Parkside South, we have the Black and Pan-African Scholars House in H building, and in Parkside Central in M building, we have the First Gen community, and we'll talk about those a little bit later. Parkside North is a separate building housing around 470 students, also part of Parkside Village. And that is a newer building with community kitchen, study spaces, different hangout spaces like a rooftop and a courtyard. And then another amenity difference we'll talk about later is air conditioning. Parkside North is the only building in Parkside Village that does have air conditioning. Residents can go to any dining hall. Parkside Dining Hall does have great orange chicken that you'll always hear about, and has a great outdoor patio space and a lot of, and it always busy, always a great place to eat and hang out. Hillside Village is up a hill. It seems like a fairly flat campus until you walk back and forth throughout Parkside to Hillside. It is the closest village to at main campus in the academic buildings and has a few different styles of buildings. There are community kitchens in some different areas. Hillside Commons, which we'll talk about, is available. The kitchen's available to all residents while that building is open. And then Los Alamitos and Los Cerritos buildings were renovated to add community kitchens, and we're hoping to see that in International House by spring 2024. It has a kitchen, but not ready to be used yet. The thematic communities that are throughout Hillside are in Los Cerritos. The Honors House encompasses that whole building. Our Pride House is in B building. Hillside does have suite buildings A through F, and B building is Pride House. And then International House has its own thematic community in a building of the same name where international students and domestic students live together and learn from each other. There is a dining hall for Hillside, which also has a great outdoor patio space. And then the Hillside Gateway area, if you've been to campus and requested a tour, you might have stopped at the housing office. And then the Hillside Commons building, which we've referred to having that kitchen, also has a service center, a lounge, a wellness room, a practice room, and then some staff offices. All of our areas have multiple common areas for residents. And then, as I mentioned, Hillside up that hill starts the walk to campus. Beachside Village is actually an off-site property. It is still campus housing. It's still a part of campus, but there is about 1.5 miles between Parkside and then Beachside Village, and it's located on Pacific Coast Highway. The thematic community that is housed in Beachside is on the 3rd floor of Pacific Hall, and that's the community for transfer students. Transfer students can live anywhere, but that's the thematic community location if they want that involvement. Beachside has a unique aspect of having our triple room options. That's the only room option throughout our villages that's triple. And then also doubles. It does have an on-site heated pool between Atlantic and Pacific buildings. And then large common spaces. There's a game room, places to hang out, watch TV, study and computer labs, its own dining hall, and is closer to some of the amenities in Long Beach, being that it is situated off-site. But there is a university shuttle that can shuttle students to main campus, and then on the weekends, Beachside residents are able to park on campus with their Beachside resident permit. Something that we want to note, don't know where you're coming from, where you're living, but the situation, like being situated close to the coast in Long Beach, 80% of our housing buildings don't have air conditioning, and this was, pretty standard for the time when they were built. We listed the buildings there without air conditioning. Any of the lettered buildings, A through Q, as well as International House, do not have air conditioning. And then any of the buildings listed there, you see it's a small percentage. Beachside, both Pacific and Atlantic, Los Alamitos and Los Cerritos, and Parkside North. The weather is very mild, but students are encouraged to bring fans. Well, I'll talk about it a little bit later with our packing list. Air conditioning units are not permitted. It's not possible to accommodate that, but fans in the window circulate the air. And so that's an encouragement for all residents to bring that. Our thematic communities, I've talked about where they're situated throughout the villages, but you can see those that I referenced listed here. There is a brief short response application process to show interest in living in a thematic community, because that is an additional educational co-curricular experience for our residents. There's programming specific to the thematic community theme. The RAs there also had a separate application process to show their interest in living in the community, and there might be field trips or service learning opportunities that are specific to the theme, and we're happy to have those situated throughout our 3 villages, and know that they're just growing every year. Black and Pan-African scholars and First Gen were new in 2021, and just continue to grow and be more robust each year. And Pride House recently relocated to a larger building because of interest. And so lots of great things happening with our thematic communities.
Hello. So our application process started on April 5th for new students. We had a priority deadline for May 1st, which is the same day as the National Day of Attention to the Universities. This year we did things differently, in where we took everyone that applied April 5th through May 1st and sort them based on distance from the campus. And then any students after that, we put in based on when they first paid and after the May 1st deadline. So they were in order of that. Along the part of our application process is that they have to apply and pay the service fee of $275. It does go towards the cost of housing. So it's not something it's not a security deposit or a separate fee as part of their housing. There's paying in advance a little bit. We do anticipate, and we already have a wait list of students that are still trying to get into housing. Confirmations were sent out early May, like a week after the deadline. And so we're now just waiting and processing those cancellations of people who were confirmed because they decided not to come to Long Beach, or they decided to commute. And we'll take people off the wait list at that point. So that's how that application process works for that. Next slide. Thank you. So the housing application is 3 parts. Part 1, or phase 1, as we like to call it, is completing the elements of our application. The questionnaires about what kind of roommate or you might be, what kind of roommate you're looking for, basic demographics about yourself, what your hall preferences are, as well as your meal plan options that you're looking at. This is where Sarah had mentioned that there's options of the different villages in terms of standard rate, premium rates, and plus rates. Those are sorted out based on the buildings and the amenities. So, for example, those buildings with no air conditioning would have the standard price rate, and the premium, which is Parkside North, has the higher rate in terms of that. In between is the plus rate, which is Cerritos and Alamitos, because it's a hybrid. Once applications and confirmations are done, as I mentioned, we've already started that process and we're still on the wait list. We are currently in our phase 2 of doing the roommate selection process. Students who were confirmed were allowed to go into the system and search for roommates based on their tagged community. So if they got into Honors House, they would only see honors students. If they're in the general house, where it's not a thematic community, they'll see all the students in the general based on their community and gender. Students can send messages to each other, search for each other. We send out emails about best practices, as well as quick tips to make things communicate faster. Once all that's done, in July, we will do the room selection process, where the roommates and students who don't have roommates decided not to search for a room because they just wanted the room type specifically. We'll then go into the system to search for a specific room, building, and room. We will allot or assign time slots to these students so that not all 2,700 or 3,000 students are trying to pick the same room and crash in our system, which I know would happen if we did that. So every student will be assigned a time slot to be able to enter the process. And at that point, they can, if they have a roommate verified, if their roommate is a later date, they can pull their roommate into the spot they're looking for, as long as they're searching for the same number of bed spaces. So for example, if you have a roommate group of 3 students who want a roommate together, they should be looking for an open triple room with 3 bed spaces open, not just because it says triple room. Sarah? This is ours, yeah. So on our website, if you go to housing.csulb.edu, you'll get to our website. You'll see all our buttons on the right, a housing portal where they can apply, where they can send messages to roommates. Even our communications that we send by email is also saved in there. So if they think they didn't get an email, they can also check their portal as well to verify that they got an email or a message. Most of our 99% of our communication will be through email for the housing application process. So it is very important that students are checking their emails. If they just got admitted, probably their personal emails that it's getting it, but at some point in the summer, it shifts over to their student email. So they should get in the habit of checking both just to make sure they're getting it, as well as making housing at CSULB.edu a safe sender, so it doesn't go to their junk emails. We tend to get a lot of students saying, "Oh, I didn't get it," and it went to their junk email or spam. The website has a lot of other information, especially for parents. We have a communication log in there, so if you're not wondering if a student got the email or what that email stated because they accidentally deleted it permanently, there is a communication log on the left-hand side for resources as well. There's the payment dates and important calendars and things like that. So everything you need or might have a question about is definitely on our website. We have also initiated LB, our chat bot that our campus is having. So we're one of the few campus members that have it on there. So if you ask a question, it will give you the basic information. You keep asking. If it's not getting you the answer or the information you're looking for, it will send us an email and then we'll contact you by email about what the question or answer is.
All right, so we spent a lot of time talking about, you know, what we have and how to get here, but why live on campus? One of the things that our department has decided to adopt is a residential curriculum, which we call the Beach Journey. And through that, we have a few things that we want to make sure that your students have the opportunity to engage in while they live with us, right? So that's getting to know one another, building some of that, some of the social skills, getting to know their roommates, their suite mates, and adapting, especially after COVID. We have seen a real need to help facilitate some of these interactions. Health and wellness, helping folks both, not just both, mentally, physically, emotionally, really get taking care of themselves, right? And taking taking advantage of some of the resources that are on campus. We often do trips to areas nearby. That's the beauty of Long Beach. So I know we've had some folks go to the Grammy Museum. We've taken people to the Getty. There's other, you know, opportunities that pop up each year that are unique. And we are able to use the student fees to pay for those tickets and that transportation. So we build it and hopefully they come. Leadership development, this is a skill that folks are going to need regardless of what field they're going into. And so we give folks an opportunity to get involved both internally with some of our organizations, but we also just give basic leadership, you know, skills. What does it look like to be a bystander? How do you maybe take the lead when nobody's really stepping up, et cetera. And then we partner with different campus offices. So career services, our financial aid office, on how to again, navigate some of these more complex problems and processes that our students face. And then adulting one-on-one, we laugh at this, but the number of folks who don't know how to do laundry when they get here, or boil an egg, or some of the most basic things that you would expect, we help with that, and just really getting that confidence to know that yes, they can do that. They may have relied on you all for most of their life, but now is the time for them to take those reins and to do that in a safe setup. And then we do different things at the end of the semester. So we partner with our dining halls to do some late night breakfasts and some crunch labs and some things, study hall, to help create a space for folks to be as successful as they can be. We also turn into 24-hour quiet hours as final start, and we hold that pretty strictly to make sure that your student has the best possible focus time to be successful. And I'll pass it back over to, oh no, it's me. Okay. So I was talking about ways to get involved. So we have a community activities board. And so that's basically each village students can elect to run for position or just participate in planning events for their area. And so we set aside a pretty substantial budget for students to plan events and find things that interest them. So that can go from, game nights to movie nights to, I know during Halloween, they do contests and, Halloween contests, but also get involved with the community if they would like. Our RHA is the Residence Hall Association, and that is our housing wide board. So we're the community activity board to really focus on the villages. RHA focuses on all of our portfolio. And so they do those really big programs. So during beach days, we have a pretty large welcome event that the RHA will host. The students who are elected to that board actually get their housing compensated. So not only do they get some really good leadership experience and responsibility, they're compensated for their time and energy with free housing. Our resident assistants, they're student staff who live amongst your students, and so they've lived with us before, they've done this before, and so they guide our students through some of the basic navigation of programs, academics. They serve on call. So every night we have, various tiers of on call, whether that's the RAs, the grads, the living professionals, or my leadership team. So we call up as needed. So again, anything from, you stubbed your toe, you left your laptop in a place you probably shouldn't, and it walked off, to, you're really homesick and you're having a panic attack and we really need to get you some support. So it really runs the gamut, but our RAs are the first step, and they go through a pretty intensive training. So both in the fall and in the spring, we go through Cleary and some of those other trainings that they need to have. Our RAs of technology, they're RAs, but their focus is really supporting our folks, getting them connected with their gaming systems, and if their computers aren't connecting the way they should, they help with that. They also help the Res Life team and the housing office in general with any tech needs that we have. So if we're doing a large program and we need some tech support, these folks are really great. And they don't have to be, information technology majors, but they also get housing and dining compensated like the RAs. So the RAs get that extra piece of that dining compensation where RHA does not. And then desk assistants are student assistants who they don't have to work in or don't have to live in the house, but most of them have or currently do, and they work our service centers. And so they make sure that the mail gets sorted. They help issue vacuums and games and cooking equipment. And if your student forgets their ID card and they're locked out, then they're able to go down to the front desk and they can let them in. We also train the DAs on just some of the resources on campus. So if your student can't find an RA, the desks are normally manned, or I should say, worked from about 8 to 10. On the weekend, it's more like 10 to 10, but there's somebody that's there that they can find. And then conference assistants are another summer position that help with our conferences over the summer. And so, we have folks, whether it's youth groups, yearbook, I think is here, Special Olympics, folks who come to our campus as a retreat location to really spend some time and do whatever they're doing. These conference assistants help with all of that, getting them checked in, checked out, and addressing any of their needs. So we provide a lot of ways for your students to get involved if they choose to. And those are really important skill sets, again, to practice in this arena before they get ready for that world of work outside of the university. And it's back to Sarah.
Yeah, so move-in is right around the corner, August 18th and 19th this year, and we'll continue to send out information, but wanted to put some information here about things to bring, but more about things to not bring as you might shop throughout the summer or start looking for things. The list of things to bring is fairly standard, really anything that your student needs to feel comfortable, to be able to do their schoolwork, to sleep, to live and get dressed every day, maybe use those community kitchens, to go to the bathroom and showers. Some are attached to the room, some are attached to the suite, and some are down the hall in a community style, and regardless, still using a shared space between others. And so some things to think about. And then just additional options for feeling more comfortable. Things that you should not bring, so you should not purchase, is a microwave or refrigerator. Every room has a combination microwave, refrigerator, freezer. It's shared between roommates, and no additional of either is allowed. And then common issues we see with prohibited items: electric scooters, electric bikes, electric skateboards, hoverboards, one wheels. All of those, for the most part, are not permitted on campus, but definitely are a fire hazard in the building. And so for safety, we suggest not bringing it at all. It's definitely not allowed in the building. And like I said, not permitted on campus either, per the policies. I mentioned this already, but air conditioners, swamp coolers, I know they sell some freestanding ones or window units, but those are not permitted. And so don't bother purchasing those, just maybe some fans of different sizes. Candles, lava lamps, I think are popular again, but things that are flammable, incense, etc. We're just really interested in fire safety, as you can imagine, and these are the things that are dangerous. Large flags, tapestries, those are always in Pinterest boards about what it looks like to have a cute room. Fabric wall hangings, those are dangerous and flammable, and so none of those are permitted. And then other appliances, things like a blender, or an internal brewing mechanism coffee pot, like a Keurig being a name brand, those are permitted, but things that could be a fire hazard, toasters, toaster ovens, rice cookers, air fryers, none of those are permitted. And then extension cords that are not surge protected. So something with an on-off switch, like a surge protector, is permitted, but the skinny extension cords with like 2 or 3 outlets on the side, or even some longer ones that just don't have a surge protector on them, those are not permitted. And a lot of items require being plugged in directly to the wall. And so those are things to think about as far as that fire safety. Like I said, more information about move-in will be forthcoming, but we do want you to have important dates. Like I said, August 18th and 19th are the days for move-in. There will be dates or time periods where you can sign up for your move-in arrival time period on the date that your building is assigned. And so that will be sent out later this summer for sign up. And then beach days start whenever the move-in day is for your building, and continues through the first day of classes and even beyond. And so on Friday, August 18th, that's the move-in day for any thematic community buildings, as well as a few other buildings, but there are thematic community specific events on that day. And then Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, there are specific events to get students oriented to the campus, to have them facilitate conversations, to meet other folks in their building, to start roommate agreements and suite mate agreements, to learn about important topics related to being a college student, to find where their classes are and tour campus, and then some social and educational events as the first week of classes gets started. And then regarding breaks throughout the academic year, fall break, which is in November, and then spring break, that is between March and April. The halls are open, but dining is not open for all of that time. So students are allowed to stay. They don't have to sign up or pay anything extra, but there might not be dining available if they do choose to stay. The halls do closed for winter break unless students have paid to remain in the halls. And so they close on Tuesday, December 19th at 11 a.m. So the last day of finals is Monday, December 18th. And so students can move out immediately after their finals. We usually say 24 hours after finals. And the final schedule is already up and posted. So as soon as they have their class schedule, they can look that up. But the last time that the halls are open to those who have not paid for winter break is Tuesday, December 19th at 11 a.m. And then moving back in for the spring semester is on Sunday, January 21st, 2024. Dining is closed during break, so break housing is just solely the space in the residence halls, and there's no in and out privilege. The halls are completely closed. We're on a skeleton staff, and so unless a student has paid, they are not utilizing their space for winter break. Now we have some time for questions, as Amy mentioned at the beginning, but here we have our contact information, our social media, and the specific folks to contact if there's questions about applications, service animals, or the thematic communities.
Thank you very much for this lovely presentation. We really appreciate the time and effort to be able to provide these resources to our families, parents, and supporters. As mentioned, we will now move on to any questions that we may have for our panelists. And at this time, we have the chat feature open. So if you'd like to type your question, we'll also be accepting questions through our raised hand option. And we're going to go ahead and take a look at the chat. So we have a question. It says, we are from SF. My son is on the wait list, 730 for housing. What are your recommendations for us?
So right now, it doesn't hurt to stay on the wait list. Obviously, we do tend to see some cancellations throughout the summer. Students, like we mentioned before, students who don't want housing anymore, or they end up getting into their wait list at school because Long Beach wasn't the first choice. And then things like that, as well as sometimes they don't follow through with their paperwork and the missions ended up rescinding for some reason. But in the meantime, I would recommend searching for rental properties around the area, looking at we sent an email about being on the wait list and gave some resource options in that email. So if the student has that, they can check those out and kind of search. Our wait list will stay through all the way until the first couple of weeks of school starting, because we do have some students who got confirmed, we've been reaching out, and they never told us that they canceled or not even attending the university anymore. So my colleague and I have been very proactive in double checking and reporting to see if any of these students have their missions changed and they're no longer coming here. And right after roommate selection process, we'll be calling everyone who didn't select a room. So about 1,800 calls that we'll be gonna be making next week to confirm that these students are actually coming into housing. And if they say they're not, then we'll be taking them off and then adding people from the wait list. So we understand the concerns and everything that students are having being on the wait list, but do everything to look at alternative options, backup options, and things like that. Because unfortunately, as much as we love to house everybody in housing, we have a limited number of spaces and bed spaces, and so waitlist is unfortunately going to happen.
Thank you for answering the question. We'll be moving on to question number 2. What happens if one person got into honors but already has a non-honors roommate?
So we work really well with honors program. They are typically the ones in charge of who's going to be in the honors house and then which honors students are not going to be in honors house. So there is a possibility of an honors student not being in honors house community, but being in housing. That person wants to be roommates with someone that's not in the honors house. They would need to reach out to the UHP honors program and let them know that they're more willing to be in another hall. If there's a space available and that person that they're rooming with is in honors, they could probably pull them in depending on whatnot. So there is that little give and take a little bit. So we just need to make sure we're not going over capacity and be telling the student, hey, you were confirmed and now you're not because we didn't have enough cases. So we do communicate that really well with each other. And I'm pretty sure, and I believe they had a forum for honor students to opt out of being in honors house. So just check with them on that. And then, so
Well,
that's the honest question. So yeah.
Yes, so thank you so much for answering that question. We'll be moving on to question number 3. My daughter has found a roommate, so they go in and start the process. When will they be able to choose the dorms?
So residence hall building room assignment selection process is in July. I believe we have it July 5th to the 12th. Obviously didn't want to start it on the middle of 4th of July because we want vacation too. So it will be after the 4th of July holiday. Students will be emailed probably the late end of June, their time slot to when they can access the system. So we'll do it in groups of, like we said before, we'll do it in groups, saying this cluster, 20, 25 people will have this time slot. And it will remain open the whole time that once their time slot starts. So if you missed your beginning time slot, not a huge deal. It just will depend if you're trying to go for the sought after new building venue, then just know that you should have a backup choice and maybe a third choice, and that the roommates are also in agreement because it will come fast. And you know, we only have so many new spaces and then the rest is going down from there. So, or vice versa, someone wants the triple rooms, we only have so many triple rooms and then go from there. So it's important as one of the tips that the roommates talk to each other, communicate, hey, this is my idea, this is my idea. Communicate, compromise, make sure they got an agreement. Our hope is to be able to give students that are roommates, that are verified roommates, the same time slot so that way they have a better option of looking to search and from there. So that'll start in July.
Thank you. Fatu provided a link for resources off campus. So thank you so much for providing that on the chat. Moving on to question number 4, my child is 18, so do they need to sign the housing contract as we, the parents, will be making the payments? How does this work and when is it due?
So the contract was signed during the application. It's called the license agreement. And so students were there. If the system saw them as under 18, it would have asked for them to print it out and have a parent sign it and email it to us or mail it to us. And then we'll update it saying that it's been signed. Now regarding payments, the payments won't start until September. Once the students have chosen rooms and everything, we'll send an email in late July about the payment plan, what the cost is gonna look like, and et cetera. But for all students, they're automatically on a payment plan unless they choose to pay in full, which they can do. It'll be a $40 savings for them. And paying in full will be for the full academic year, fall and spring room and board charges. So it'll all depend on room type they're in and what meal plan they have chosen in terms of the charges. Again, an email will be sent out in mid to late July regarding like, okay, congratulations, this is your room assignment. Here's moving information, here's all this stuff about billing. To make a payment, students can pay through they'll pay through their student center, so they're single sign-on. So that's where parents should have a conversation with their students saying, hey, I'm gonna need to either put money in your account and you make sure the bill goes into that, or you pay directly by having their access to that information. So.
Thank you very much. Our follow-up question number 5 is dining managed by Housing and Residential Life. My daughter is working through BMAC regarding potential accommodations. Do we go through BMAC to address dietary needs or through dining hall with BMAC's involvement?
That's an excellent question. Dining hall is part of 49er ASI shops. We house the facilities for them. They manage the meals and the services of it. Now, for dining services, there is a manager. Her name is Jenny Liu, Lew. You can always email her with first name dot last name at CSULB. And let her know that you have dietary restrictions and needs. She is a dietitian, licensed dietitian. She deals with celiac diseases for some of our students, gluten-free and things like that, and work a schedule with you or what the game plan would be. It is recommended to do both avenues, reach out to Jenny Liu, as well as make sure it's in your BMAC accommodation request so that we can make those notes on our end as well. So, yeah.
Thank you. Question number 6, how does roommate selection work with waitlisted students who get a room, and do they have a lower priority selecting a room?
So I'm going to answer it in this way that roommate selection is only available for those who are confirmed. However, we did find out earlier on there was a little slight glitch, so some waitlisted students were getting emails. We've asked them to let the students know you're waitlisted and can't do a room selection. So the way it works is if you're able to get confirmed prior to the next step or phase, you'll be able to participate in that. If you miss it, then we'll auto assign you. Now, with the roommate room process being a gap, if you're confirmed for room, you'll be able to go in, select a room, see who the student is in that room, and they'll be your roommate, or you search for another room. There is no priority in selecting a room or what rooms is given to students. It's all a matter of what's remaining at the time you're able to select rooms. That goes same for those students who have an earlier time slot versus a later time slot. So it's all a matter of what comes up and being selected and pre-booked by the students. So in other words, it's kind of like picking a hotel room or your airline seats in an airplane. In this case, you're booking your rooms. You're going to pick whatever is available when you're able to go pick, and then that's what you get.
Thank you very much. We have a couple more questions. Can freshmen in the dorms have a car?
Yes. A couple years ago, probably around the time of COVID or right during COVID, we have removed the restriction of freshmen having cars on campus. Any student living in housing can have a car on campus. We do keep, on behalf of parking, recommend that if you don't need to have a car on campus, then don't bring it, because it is convenient to be on campus. There is some local areas to walk to, the Long Beach transportation, as well as some of our shuttle services that go to and from Beachside and the local area. So, and then we're always pushing for sustainability, so riding a bike and things like that. Long Beach City is a very bike friendly, as well as the new electric scooters and everything are off the campus area. And so there's all those that, but if you don't need it, if you're gonna have a car just to sit in the parking lot for 6 out of 7 days, It may not be worth having to pay for the parking permit to do that, but your own judgment on what you need.
Thank you very much. A follow-up question regarding roommates. Do students keep the same roommates for the entire year?
Yes, so your roommate is for the entire year. And we know you're moving in with the potential of someone you really don't know, so it is for the year. However, the Res Life staff is there. If you're having issues with communicating with your roommate, they're there to help mediate conversations. They will go through and, remind students in the beginning of the first 30 days of the semester about roommate understanding agreements, talking about those those often thought questions like, hey, if my alarm's going off, wake me up, don't wake me up, things like that. So those communicated things that you don't really think about, but wouldn't help to talk and get those conversations started. Like, oh, I don't mind if I buy something, put it in the fridge and you use it, or please don't use my stuff, things like that, So those conversations are there to start it. And then if conflicts do arise in the year because of stress or whatever, the RAs are there, the supervisors know the RAs are there. We have a process. So we are expected to be 100% full. So room changes are not something we can do lightly, because that would require 4 people to approve a room change, the 2 students who are having a problem and the 2 students who they might room with if they were to switch. And it's a process. So, but our biggest goal in housing and res life is to have these students become communicative adults and having the conversation with their problem, speaking in not accusatory, but taking ownership of what they have brought into the table, as well as the other person, to communicate and hopefully compromise those situations.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for such wonderful questions. Just keeping track of time, we'll move on to one final question, which is, can you please direct us to a map that shows all the villages?
So we have the campus map that will show everything on the left side of the campus map, which would be the west side of campus, will be housing. If you go on our housing website under housing villages, residential villages and everything. Sorry, I forgot what we retitled it because we've been changing these so many times. So the housing villages and everything, you'll see individual maps of the areas, as well as floor plans and things like that for buildings when it comes to room selection process.
Thank you all very much. Before we move away from this screen, I would encourage all the parents to take a picture or a screenshot of this slide set that we have here. If you have any questions, you have the website, the email, the social media handles, as well as the phone number, so you can be in contact and communication if you have any other questions that were not addressed during our Fireside chat. I highly encourage you to save these numbers and this information. So thank you so much to our University Housing and Residential Life for providing this wonderful presentation today. So a round of applause, wonderful presentation. And we appreciate your time and being out here and answering questions, connecting with their family, supporters, and friends. So we're able to have that successful transition for our students. So thank you all very much. Before we wrap up for today, I would like to share with you all. And Fatu, can you see my screen?
Yes, I can.
So thank you all very much for a wonderful presentation. We have additional Fireside chats that we'll be offering for the month of June. We highly recommend to participate in these to know a little bit more about our different types of resources on campus that we provide to our students, so you can become familiar. So June 15th is our next one. We'll be having Student Health Services provide a presentation. We'll have June 21st, we have June 28th, and June 30th. You can always register for these online through our new student and family programs website. So again, these are the upcoming Fireside sessions for the month of June. We do have some in July and in August. These are a very friendly way for you to log in through Zoom and really connect with us wherever you may be, at the comfort of your home or wherever you are. So thank you so much for joining our first session of the summer, and we look forward to seeing you all in the upcoming weeks. And before we conclude our session for today, we would like for you to stay informed and connected with our parent and family programs. We have our website. We also have a portal, a platform where you can stay connected with the updated resources, any other dates or events that we may be hosting. I'm also providing our location. So we're located in Brotman Hall, room 270. We are open Monday through Friday, here to service you and your family from 8 to 5. Our phone number is 562-985-5515. Once again, that's 562-985-5515. Feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions, if you'd like to register for the upcoming fire chats and things of that sort. We also have an email where you can connect with us and we'll be able to respond within 2 days. So that if we have any questions, concerns, things of that sort. With that, I would like to mention that we do have our parent and family orientations starting this month. So if you have not registered, I highly encourage for you to register. These parent orientations will dive really deep into different types of services, supports, and any kind of questions. We'll have a thorough day. These are 1-day orientations that we provide specifically for you, family, parent, and supporter. So please take advantage of all these services so that we can successfully work together and collaborate with your student and yourself so we can make this successful transition. So there is a QR code. Please feel free to scan that with your phone. You can also take a picture or a screenshot at this moment of these different types of resources that are available. Again, these are all services and resources catered to you. So thank you so much for participating today in our first Fireside Chat session. Again, my name is Amy Santos. I am the program coordinator, and I look forward to getting to know you, getting your student here on campus, and we can't wait for their first day here at Long Beach State. So thank you so much for being a part of our university and our family. So welcome. And we're really excited to meet your student and really take care of them and bring you along this journey. With this concludes our Fireside Chat session. Thank you so much for participating, all your questions. Again, if we did not get to your questions or if you have any other concerns, please feel free to reach out, whether it's a phone call or an email. I'll make sure that we can take care of you. So thank you all. And again, let's give a round of applause to our speakers for today. Wonderful. Thank you for setting the tone for our first series. So again, thank you all and have a lovely rest of your day. So go Beach. See you all very soon. Bye-bye.